It was a scorching Saturday, the kind where the sun feels like it's personally invested in roasting you alive. I was out on the deck, wrestling with this beast of a smoker I'd bought for the grill. Go big or go home, I told my wife, Lisa, when I dragged the thing home. Now, sweating and cursing under my breath, I was seriously considering competitive knitting as a less hazardous hobby. The smoker was supposed to turn a brisket into a masterpiece, but it was fighting me every step of the way. "Everything okay out there, babe?" Lisa called from the kitchen door, her voice teetering between concern and amusement, the tone she saved for my more questionable DIY adventures. "Smells like you're burning down the neighborhood." I waved a smoke-stained hand, trying to project confidence. "All good, hon. This brisket's gonna be epic." I hollered back, though inside I was muttering, saw epic disaster, maybe. Saw I'd gone all in with some fancy cherrywood chips and cranked the temperature, thinking I was a backyard pitmaster. Big mistake. 1 minute, I'm dreaming of perfectly smoked slices. The next, there's a saw whoosh saw. Not a full-on inferno, but flames were licking up from the smoker, and thick, gray smoke was billowing like a factory chimney. The deck railing was starting to char. "Okay, this just went from intense to saw, oh crap saw," I mumbled, grabbing the fire extinguisher Lisa insisted we keep nearby. Smart woman. I should listen to her more. With a soft saw that felt oddly satisfying, I blasted the flames, and they sputtered out, resentful but defeated. The house was still standing, but the deck smelled like a burnt tire, and smoke was now pouring from under the boards. Lisa appeared, phone already to her ear. "I'm calling 911, Tom," she said, calm as ever. "That's why I'm married. Her one of us has to keep it together. Just to be safe." I coughed, eyes watering. "Good call. Tell Em it's just a culinary misadventure. And maybe keep the sirens low. Don't want to wake Helen." Helen, our HOA president, was the kind of woman who'd fine you for breathing too loudly on her street. The thought of Helen made my stomach twist tighter than the smoke already had. She lived for moments like this, any excuse to swing her clipboard like a battle axe. I stood on the front lawn, the spent extinguisher at my feet, scanning the street like I was waiting for a pizza guy. Only, instead of pepperoni, I was expecting a fire truck full of pros who'd hopefully be better at this than I was. Sirens wailed closer, and relief started to creep in. Then I saw her. Helen, VY sword tilted like a general's cap. HOA polo stretched tight, clipboard gleaming with authority. She marched into the street like she was about to lead a charge, ready to turn my smoldering deck into her personal crusade. Engine 7 rolled up, slowing as it neared our house, but Helen didn't budge. She planted herself in the middle of the road, arms crossed, a human barricade of pure, weaponized indignation. Captain Daniels, a grizzled guy with eyes that screamed "Saw, I've seen it all, Saw," leaned out the window. "Ma'am, we got a call about a fire. Need to get through." His voice was polite, but carried a sigh that said he'd met her kind before. Helen, unfazed, consulted her clipboard like it held the secrets of the universe. "Fire captain, is it?" she said, loud enough for the whole block to hear. Per HOA Regulation 14, subsection B, paragraph 3, no vehicles over 26,000 pounds or with more than 2 axles are allowed on our asphalt without approval from the Architectural Committee, submitted 10 business days in advance. She tapped her pen for emphasis, the sound like a gavel. My jaw hit the grass. Helen had already cited me for being a quarter-inch too long. My deck was literally smoking 50 feet away, and she was debating axle weight with the fire department. Captain Daniels tried again, his voice tighter. "Ma'am, this is an emergency. Lives could be at stake." Helen puffed up. "The integrity of our newly resurfaced roadway is also at stake, Captain. If the homeowner," she shot me a glare that could curdle milk, "had followed fire pit safety protocols from the spring newsletter, this wouldn't be an issue." "Helen," I shouted, my voice cracking like a teenager's. "My deck's on fire. Can we save the pavement lecture for after my house is safe?" She ignored me, turning back to Daniels like I was a pesky fly. "Furthermore, your light bar exceeds weekend decibel limits per noise ordinance, Addendum 6. Across the street, Mrs. Carter's blinds twitched. Nancy, 3 doors down, was already filming from her porch. I was about to be the star of the neighborhood Facebook group's "What's that noise?" thread. My brain short-circuited. Helen was willing to let my house burn to protect her precious asphalt. The firefighters exchanged looks. One had his head in his hands. Captain Daniels rubbed his temples, probably wondering if he could just nudge her aside. "Dispatch," he said into his radio, voice flat. "We've got a civil obstruction. Requesting police. And maybe a therapist." I might have imagined that last bit. Then my eyes landed on it. The massive, bright yellow, 60-foot boom lift in my driveway. Delivered that morning for my kids' dream treehouse project, it was so new the controls still had plastic wrap. An idea, Sparkita reckless, brilliant, gloriously stupid idea. If the fire truck couldn't get through, I'd bring the fight to the fire. "Tom, what's happening?" Lisa called from the porch, her voice tight with worry and a hint of "saw what now?" "Saw, they're arguing with Helen? Is she quoting bylaws?" I grinned, probably looking unhinged. "Helen's being Helen, babe. But I just had a stroke of genius." "Or a stroke. Grab your phone, you'll want to record this." I sprinted to my truck, Helen's voice slicing through the air. "Running away, Thomas? Finally facing your violations." "Just grabbing the paperwork, Helen." I lied, the rebellion tasting sweet. My heart pounded like a jackhammer as I fumbled the keys. The Darth Vader keychain Lisa got me feeling oddly fitting. This was serious. Seriously absurd. The boom lift loomed, a yellow giant that looked like it could pluck a plane from the sky. I'd rented it for a treehouse, but now it was my weapon in a suburban showdown. "Come on, you stupid hitch," I grunted, wrestling the greasy pin. My hands were slick with sweat. Lisa shouted, "Tom, the police are coming. You sure about this?" "Counting on it," I yelled back, slamming the pin home. The lift was hitched to my F-150. Chad, Helen's HOA lackey, wandered over, looking like he'd just woken up in a blender. "Yo, Tom, what's with the cherry picker? Helen said you're HOA-ing an illegal bonfire." I fired up the truck, the engine roaring or grumbling. "It's a Ford. Just upgraded my fire safety gear, Chad." I flashed a grin that felt more like a grimace. Community standards, you know? Backing out was like steering a dinosaur. The lift's yellow arm stretched forever, and I prayed I wouldn't clip Lisa's prize azaleas. Helen had already called them sually aggressive. Every inch felt like a mile, Helen's glare burning holes in my back. As the lift cleared the driveway, her jaw dropped, her clipboard clattering to the ground. She pointed, speechless, a statue of petty tyranny crumbling. The firefighters stared. One snickered, another shook his head, grinning. Captain Daniels' mouth formed a perfect saw. Neighbors emerged, Nancy filming, Carter gawking, Mr. Evans nodding approval like I'd just won Suburbia's Nobel Prize. I parked the lift alongside the fire truck, heart hammering with terror and thrill. The control panel looked like a spaceship's, all levers and warnings. "You watch the YouTube tutorial, Tom," I whispered. "You got this." I grazed the lever saw beep, saw the horn blared, startling me and Helen. "Not the horn," I muttered, finding the right control. With a hydraulic hiss, the arm rose, slow and majestic, a metal giraffe stretching toward the sky. Helen screeched, "Cease and desist, Thomas. You're VYO-latting. Skywrites. This isn't an airport." "Skywrites? Creative, I'd give her that. Just helping the pros, Helen." I shouted over the hydraulics. "It's in the Neighborly Accord of 2025, Section 3. Total nonsense, but it sounded official." The basket soared, arcing over the street to my deck, a defiant bridge over Helen's blockade. Firefighters could run hoses underneath, maybe even rappel down like action heroes. Helen scurried below, dodging the arm's shadow, her VY sore askew, a suburban meltdown in real time. Captain Daniels radioed, "Dispatch, civil yins deployed an aerial ladder. Send a cop with a sense of humor." And a net. Police cruisers rolled up, lights flashing. Officer Martinez, a bear of a man, stepped out, taking in the chaos. Fire truck, Helen flailing, my towering lift. He sighed, a sound heavy with every ridiculous call he'd ever answered. "Saturday," he muttered. "Always Saturday." Helen pounced. "Officer, arrest this man. He's created a hazardous aerial encroachment. His ladder's not even approved, safety yellow." Captain Daniel stepped in, voice smooth but sharp. "Officer," we responded to a fire. "Access was blocked by this lady." He shot Helen a look that could freeze lava. "Tom here's just helping." "Tom Jones," I offered, patting the lift. "This is my access facilitation to VYC. Community spirit, officer." Martinez repeated, "Access. Facilitation. To VYC." Each word dripped with skepticism. He turned to Helen. "Ma'am, were you stopping the fire department?" Helen bristled. "I was upholding bylaws. That truck's a Class B restricted vehicle." I jumped in. "She's passionate about pavement, officer, but my deck was turning to charcoal." "Priorities, right?" Martinez pinched his nose, probably counting to 1,000,000. "Ma'am, this is a fire scene. Let them work. We'll talk bylaws later." Helen deflated, a punctured balloon of rage, muttering about lawyers as she stormed off. The firefighters sprang into action, one unrolling a hose under my lift, another flashing a thumbs up. The deck fire was out, fast embers under the boards, nothing major, but definitely a pro job. Later, Captain Daniel shook my hand, grinning. 30 years on the job, Tom, and I've never seen that. Guts, man. And one hell of a ladder." A young firefighter, tattooed, arm gleaming, begged for a photo. "My kid's gonna lose it." Neighbors clapped. Nancy's live stream racked up shocked emojis. Mr. Evans gave another nod, a suburban knighthood. I was no longer just Tom who overcooked brisket. I was Ladder Tom, HOA slayer. Helen, sulking by the curb, snapped photos of my lift, plotting her revenge. Lisa joined me, shaking her head but smiling. "You're insane, you know that." "Insanely awesome," I corrected, arm around her. "Pizza tonight?" She laughed. "A big one." The Great Ladder Standoff blew up online, Nancy's footage going viral. I used the lift to check the deck minor damage. Easily fixed and later for neighborly deeds. Rescuing cats, stringing lights, fetching frisbees. It became Acacia Lane's utility vehicle. A week later, an HOA letter arrived listing violations, unauthorized equipment, public spectacle, unapproved aerial maneuvers. A Dulaw 500 fine, a demanded apology to Helen, and a ladder aesthetic re-VYEW. Lisa snorted. "Aesthetic re-VYEW? Beige ladder next." "Over my dead body," I declared. At the HOA meeting, Helen painted me as a domestic terrorist, her voice quaking with faux trauma. I countered calmly, offering Nancy's footage of Helen's axle weight rant. The board declined to VYEW it, but I pressed on. The real nuisance was someone prioritizing pavement over my home. Then Magic Mrs. Lyle, usually silent, spoke up about Helen's Dulaw 75 fine for her too jolly snowman. Mr. Kim followed, railing about his culturally insensitive grass. The room erupted, neighbors airing years of Helen's petty tyranny. Helen turned purple, speechless. The board, cornered, adjourned weekly. A thinner letter arrived later. Fine waived, no apology, no ladder re-VYEW. Rumor was Martinez had a chat with the board about emergency access and bad optics. Life settled, but I was Ladder Tom now. Neighbors waved harder. The hardware store guy slipped me discounts. Helen still patrolled, but she avoided my driveway, where the lift stood, a yellow monument to her defeat. The treehouse progressed. The kids thrilled their dad fought the bad lady. Lisa watched me lower a bird's nest from a risky branch, smirking. "For a guy who nearly torched the deck, you're handy with that thing." "It's a gift," I grinned. A tall, articulating gift. The grill was scrapped in a cathartic sledgehammer session. Now we stick to pizza. Sometimes on the repaired deck, I hear a distant screech Helen or a seagull. Hard to say. Either way, my 60-foot ladder's ready. Helen knows it. Oh, she knows. So what do you think? Was I a hero for outsmarting the HOA? Or a reckless VY Gillante who escalated things too far? Should Helen have backed down? Or was she right to defend her bylaws? And that ladder genius move? Or suburban madness? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if you're Team Ladder Tom. And subscribe for more stories where ordinary folks take on the absurd. Let's get this debate rolling.